Lisbon's calling and FCOT's listening. It's Tess's Eurovisions.
Good afternoon, Europe. Back by popular demand, you're listening to Tess's Eurovisions here on 87.7 FCOT FM, where for the next 60 minutes I will be showering you with only, and I mean only, the best and brightest from Europe's favourite TV show. Trademark, that is what they call themselves. But what Eurovision show would be complete without an overture first by Marc-Antoine Charpentier? All rise, if you will, for the international anthem. Coming up in today's show, we've got some of my favourite tunes from this year's contest and beyond, so I can prove once and for all that Eurovision is nice and normal and for everyone. I cannot stress that enough. So to hell with all the stereotypes. Plus, we'll have a little recap of the betting odds as they currently stand and other bits and pieces of news directly from Lisbon, this year's Eurovision capital following Portugal's victory last year. To get us into the mood though, how about we open with Not Alone by Aram MP3, which was Armenia's entry from 2014, so a fair while ago, but my intention here is to prove that this year's songs aren't just a lucky fluke, they are always as strong as this. So that being the case, I dare say, if there are any fans of the contest out there, you are not alone, and here's a singing Armenian man to prove it. That was Aram MP3 and Not Alone, which, if memory serves, came fourth in 2014, so it did very well. That's the sort of thing that Europe is, or certainly was into back then. Now, if absolutely nothing else, as I was saying before, I'd like to think that that song, in this show especially, should serve as some sort of rallying cry to those of you lovely people who are listening because you already love the contest rather than because you need to be converted or whatever. As for everyone else, well, your time is coming, don't worry. By the end of these 4 weeks, I'd like to think that you'll all be as pro-Eurovision as this Eurovision pro right here. Me, I'm referring to myself in saying that. Ahem. Now though, it's time for a quick roundup of all the latest news, gossip, and everything else besides. A very quick roundup, in fact. Let's put a hot 60 seconds on the clock and see how much I can deliver in this one little bite-sized news update. How about that? It worked last year, it was a fine format, so let's begin. Preparations are well underway in the Portuguese capital, with the stage of the 2018 contest completing construction roughly today, I believe, in the Altice Arena in Lisbon. Additionally, 5 countries have already confirmed their intention to participate in the 2019 contest: Norway, Sweden, Spain, Israel, and San Marino, the latter following the raucous success of their new national selection format this year, 1 in 360. Liechtenstein is also adamant that they will make their debut next year with an equally bold song selection show, though Eurovision pundits aren't confident about their odds just yet. Just under half of the acts have been confirmed for the 2018 Eurovision Young Musicians to be held in Edinburgh this August following the UK's surprise return to the contest, including Francesco Stefanelli, who will represent San Marino on the cello for the second contest in a row. 12 countries have confirmed their participation in the upcoming inaugural edition of the Eurovision Asia Song Contest to be held in Australia in October for the first time. We don't know any of the acts just yet, but we do know that, amongst others, Kazakhstan, China, Papua New Guinea, South Korea, and Japan will be competing, and I, for one, cannot wait for that. Oh, just barely made it in time there. Just goes to show just how hectic the world of Eurovision really is. Anyway, time now, though, to bring back a little game that I think we all enjoyed from last year. A little game that I like to call Almost Eurovision, which, as I recall, had a little jingle that sounded something like this. The way it works is exactly the same as last year. I'm going to play you a few snippets from songs that competed to represent their countries in the same year, but that all failed to make the cut in the end. Your task, as ever, is to identify which year these 3 songs all came from. That said, if you know exactly where each song came from, then don't be afraid to show off, but the main goal here is to work out what year were these 3 tunes almost Eurovision songs. You see where the name comes from? Anyway, yes, what year were these 3 from?
surviving, but you gotta keep on trying, gotta hold on.
So, yes, what year did those three songs all try and fail to represent their respective countries? Tweet at us using the hashtag EuroTess if you think you know the answer, or just if you want to talk to me. I would love to hear what y'all have to say. Why, yes, I do mean to say y'all, that's just my dialect, what are you going to do about it? But yes, the hashtag EuroTess hashtag thing is ours to use as we please after all. I even checked, no one's used it since last year, so it is my proprietary hashtag. You are very welcome to that. While you're puzzling through that, though, or blasting through it just as easily if you're an expert, depending on your level of experience, let's chat for a hot second. I asked this in the first episode of Eurovisions last year, or possibly the second, I don't remember, but I'll ask again. What's the first thing that you personally think of when you hear the name Eurovision? Because my goal with this show is to just generally smash, destroy, obliterate, and otherwise eliminate from existence all the nasty, toxic beliefs that most people in this country seem to hold about the contest, so it'd help if I knew what sort of grounds I was starting from, so talk to me. As I said, we've got hashtag Eurotest all to ourselves, and I'll be looking over at Twitter later on in the show and reading out some of your answers, if they're suitable for radio, of course. You know how it be. I won't bore you with a massive rant about my personal views of the contest myself, though, because, well, obviously I support the contest, and I support it without playing into any of the annoying stereotypes too, or so I'd like to think anyway. If nothing else, yeah, I have this Eurovision radio show, but, you know, it's not the sole component of my personality. I have other facets too, you know, as do most Eurovision fans, but now's neither the time nor the place to get all angry about that. No, indeed, let's take a listen to one of this year's competing entries. Coming to us all the way from the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, we have the rather curious band IQ, that's EYECUE. See what they did there? So, we have their unusual medley of song styles, in the form of Lost and Found. It took me a while to warm to this entry, but when I did, I warmed to it substantially. That being said, let me know what you think of it over on Twitter. Over to you, Maria and Boyan from Macedonia. So, what did you think of that? It is a rather unusual song, don't you think? In case you missed it, that'll be representing FYR Macedonia in Eurovision this year. They'll be performing 11th in the first semi-final on the 8th of May, which means that if you're listening from within the United Kingdom, you can vote for it if you want to. For more information about that, check our Twitter at FCOT FM, where I've created scorecards for both semi-finals for you to use at your leisure. And yes, I will make a matching one for the final when we know who's qualified for it, just like I did last year. In the meantime, I'd like to pitch a question to you lovely people. In fact, I'd rather like to have a question of the week for each show, and this week, well, let's bring back the one I used last year. If you had absolute power over your country's Eurovision plans, what would you do differently? And don't just say, withdraw from the contest. I mean, please. England hasn't won a certain international football tournament since 1966, but they keep trying that without complaint, so I think we can handle having not been in the top 5 of Eurovision since 2009. If nothing else, the UK scored 111 points or thereabouts at last year's contest. That's impressive. So, yeah, what would you do differently if you were in charge? Let me know, tweet at FCOT FM using the hashtag Eurotest, and I might read your thoughts out later on in the show. As for myself, I personally would start by making the results of the UK's song selection show completely 100% transparent. I concede it's a good thing that we have Eurovision You Decide on BBC4, well, I'd like it to be on BBC 2, but whatever, or BBC 1 even better, to choose our entry, even if the BBC did do an absolutely awful job of advertising it this year more than ever, so that only the hardcorest of fans watched it, and most of the hardcore fans in this country tend to have a taste in music that's, shall we say, far removed from the mainstream. The problem with the show is we only ever hear who wins, we never find out who comes second or third or any other position, which seems dumb, if I'm honest, because, you know, we're paying to vote, so it comes across as rather disingenuous if you ask me. As if it isn't bad enough that they try to cram the whole show into a measly 90 minutes to begin with, says the guy with a 1-hour radio show. This kind of questionability hardly helps me in my crusade to make Eurovision as popular as it deserves to be in this country. Sometimes it just feels absolutely futile, but here I am, still trying my best in the face of highly discouraging odds, which leads into our next song for today. Latvia's entry this year is presented by the half-Brazilian, half-Latvian Laura Risotto. Yes, it's spelled differently, but it's pronounced the same as the rice dish. Let's get all our laughs out now. Anyway, it tells the story of being in love with a guy who only views her as the dumb friend who isn't worth his time, while he runs off to pursue another relationship. It's got atmosphere, it's got sass, and it's really impressive that the whole thing was written, composed, and performed all by one person. So, without further ado, yeah, representing Latvia, here's Laura Risotto with Funny Girl.
Rushing into Rushmore? Call Eurotaxis on 01252 376666 or check out the Eurotaxis.biz app. We're now expanding into the Rushmore area, providing even wider coverage with our 20 years of experience in taxis and minibuses. If you've got somewhere to be, count on us to get you there. Rush more? Rush less. Call Euro Taxis on 01252 376666.
So, what do you guys feel like doing?
I'm hungry.
I want to get my nails done.
We're out of kitchen roll at home, so I need to stock up.
And I want to check out that new game that just got released today.
Everybody wants something different. How can you possibly hope to make everyone happy?
Oh, let's go to Prince's Mead then.
What? No, there can't be an answer as easy as that.
Well, there is. Over 30 indoor shops on one level, lots of variety, and a food court that fits anyone's taste, and more. It's the ideal place to hang out.
Well, can I come?
Of course you can, Greg. Just stop doing that weird voice.
Right.
Prince's Mead. Essential shopping every day.
Top of the leaderboard, Tess's Eurovisions on FCOT FM.
Hello, yes, bonjour, guten tag, etc. and welcome back to Tess's Eurovisions, live on 87.7 FCOT FM. Earlier on in the show, I played you 3 songs that all tried and failed to represent their countries at Eurovision in the same year, and I asked you to tweet in with what that year was. If you missed that, here's a very quick recap of those 3 songs.
But you gotta keep on trying, gotta hold on.
If you think you know which year those 3 songs are from, get in touch on our social media at FCOT FM on Twitter and on Facebook, and under hashtag Eurotest wherever hashtags are found. Maybe not Instagram though, because I don't have the means of checking Instagram. For now, while you're pondering that, or not, let's take a quick gander at the betting odds for this week. With just a handful of weeks to go until the contest, we're coming towards the end of pre-party season, where the various delegations travel around Europe and beyond to showcase their songs in a number of organised events, and for some songs, this is make or break time. It's the first time we get to hear how they sound live, which can impact the odds by quite a bit. For instance, during a show in Moscow, difficulties befell Russia's Yulia Samoylova, whom you may remember was going to represent her country last year until Russia withdrew because of her travel ban. This year, her song I Won't Break was met with mediocre to positive reception from critics, but her live performance was criticised rather heavily. She seems to have bounced back a little though, as Russia now sits at 25th overall in the odds. Meanwhile, at the top of the table, there has been a bit of movement. Bulgaria's odds, for instance, were drifting just a little until an inspiring performance at Eurovision in Concert, the largest of the April pre-show events, proved to Europe that the group Equinox, temporarily featuring their artist from last year, Christian Kostov, is highly competent and in control of their vocals, so they shot back up into second place, pushing the Czech Republic down into third. Australia currently sits in fourth, despite initial reactions from pundits, and the popular but divisive Estonia is now in fifth, following concerns that the Estonian broadcaster may not be able to afford the elaborate staging they were hoping for to sell the song on the night. Israel continues to lead the betting odds, however. Netta Barzilai and Toy have been hot favourites for almost the entire season, even despite the song's relative novelty factor. She currently leads the OGAE vote as well, a non-canon scoreboard voted on by Eurovision pundits, with 199 points, leagues ahead of second place on 111, and third place, which is on 89. For now, though, I'd like to give due attention to Germany's entry. They currently sit in the top half of the betting odds, but they aren't anywhere particularly noteworthy. Still, though, Michael Schulte's ode to his late father, You Let Me Walk Alone, is a hauntingly simple ballad that I fear people might overlook just because it's too easy to compare the singer to Ed Sheeran out of pure laziness, if you ask me. Well, I urge you to take the song on its own merits. Let's listen to it now. That was You Let Me Walk Alone by Michael Schulte, spelled Michael, pronounced Michael, representing Germany in this year's Eurovision Song Contest. Germany is pre-qualified for the final since the country is part of the so-called Big Five, the 5 countries, including the UK, that contribute the most financially to the running of the contest. So if you want to vote for that, you can in the grand final on the 12th of May. Joining me in the studio now, though, is a very good friend of mine. You might remember him from The Game Guys earlier this week, or more likely, you'll remember him from the Drive Time Show. Please welcome Ozzy. How are you doing today, Ozzy, my dude?
I'm not too bad, how are you?
I'm quite okay. I'm going just to sit here and clap politely because you're here.
Well, You kind of dragged me in here, but...
I kind of did. So, yeah. What have you thought of the songs that I've been playing so far? Because we've had 4 from this year's contest, plus a little appetizer from 2014 to show that it's consistent quality, if not improving.
I like a few of them. I definitely see your point with the last song, the Germany's entry, being, it could potentially be joint to being very similar to Ed Sheeran. So, I can see...
Yeah. Just, I think some people write it off a bit too quickly because, it's a guy with gingerish hair and a guitar, so clearly he's ripping off Ed Sheeran. Like, they do realise it's a different song, don't they? But it is...
Apparently not.
It is really touching and really moving, and there are a couple of songs about dead people in this year's contest, which kind of jarring tonal shift, but in their defence, they're 3 very different songs, so it's got that going for them at least. And I mentioned earlier in the show, if, like, this applies to you lovely people as well, if you could change one thing about how your country runs Eurovision, what would you change? Get in touch with #EuroTess. Ozzy, what would you change?
Oh, I don't know. I think I have to admit, to get more people interested in it, it needs to be possibly put on more terrestrial channels. Like, even if you're not going to put it on BBC One, put it on BBC Two. I thought it's been on BBC Two before, in previous years.
Yeah, I could swear there was one year where they had the semi-finals on BBC Two or something. I think the National Selection Show was on BBC Two last year. I don't know if it was this year though. So they should just put it all on BBC One.
Well, if you're not going to put it on BBC One, which is obviously one of the most watched terrestrial channels
in the world.
I mean,
at least they have the final on the BBC One. So
if you're not going to put it on BBC One, put the selections and the semi-finals on BBC Two, so you can drive up interest in it.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
Yeah, we need more advertisement. Like, get it into the mainstream, because at the moment it's like a really niche thing, and like there's exactly one personality type that's associated with Eurovision, like
you.
Well, okay. Also me. And also, in an attempt to boost the advertisement quotient factor words of that, as I've mentioned before, I made scorecards for this year's semi-finals. You can find them on our Twitter and our Facebook at the moment, FCOT FM. It's there. It's a thing that you can consume with your face or your mouse. That probably would be a bit more effective. And just looking over at Twitter, one person says that they absolutely agree. The BBC should make the You Decide votes completely transparent and advertise with a young, uncynical presenter. I wonder who's being referred to there. Also, one of our listeners from the East Coast of America has says, as a mere colonial, not to mention age, my tuppence regarding Eurovision is for the UK to go retrograde, find that spirit that catapulted the Beatles to international fame, bring them forward 50 years, and feel that creative burn. Would that work?
Ooh, I don't know, to be honest.
Well, I mean, at this point, like, last year's slogan was celebrate diversity, so keep trying different stuff. I'm sure we'll send an entry in Welsh eventually.
Yes, eventually.
Did you get to see any of last year's contest, incidentally?
Ooh, despite you going on and on and on about it all of last year during the FCOT FM being live, I don't think I did, actually. I don't think I actually got any of it.
I mean, in my opinion, and I'm sure the internet is about to scream at me, regarding the winner, you didn't miss much, but the show itself otherwise was brilliant.
Oh, actually, no. I remember you going on for a couple of weeks afterwards about the winner.
Yeah,
and it being a bit... Because
I
believe
some people like it.
You showed us some of the songs afterwards, after they'd all been brought out, and you definitely made your point known about the winner of last year.
Yeah, I mean, he's a legitimate artist, but I don't like his attitude and I didn't enjoy his song, and that's all I have to say on the matter. In any case, I do wonder if this will help my case at all or what, but I think it would only be polite for me to play the entry of our historic next-door neighbours, Ireland. Performing second to last in the first semi-final on the 8th of May, we now have Together, as performed by Ryan O'Shaughnessy. It may sound very Ireland at Eurovision, but it's a touching song. Give the poor boy a chance, why don't you? So, what did you think of that? That was Ryan O'Shaughnessy and Together representing Ireland at Eurovision this year. You can vote for it if you so desire. How do you feel about it? Hashtag EuroTess is there to be used over on social media, especially Twitter, because that's easier for me to see. Now, we've had a message from O Lisboa, or OOOESC on Twitter. I would do a discovering new artists things with songwriting assistance offered, so similar to what Ireland has though, which I'll talk about in just a second. Also, get a new staging team. They let Lucy down last year. I mean, I'll take the middle ground and not necessarily agree, but I'm going to politely agree with you. But, you know, getting back on topic, I do kind of feel bad for Ireland. You know, you think you might know them, I think, as one of Eurovision's success stories, since they've won a sum total of 7 times, which, yes, is the most any country has ever won. And since the UK has only had Irish commentators for the final of the show for a good while now, it's rather hard for us to forget about that. But if you haven't been watching recently, you might not know that Ireland has fallen on some very hard times lately. The last time they competed in a Eurovision final was 2013, where they came last with a great song performed less than flatteringly. In the years since, they've tried and tried, but constantly fallen at the first hurdle, failing to qualify from the semi-finals. Now, this is what I was talking about before. This year, the Irish broadcaster RTE has set up a songwriting bootcamp called The Nucleus, specifically designed to foster songwriting talent to bring glory back to the Emerald Isle, and that song is one of the first to emerge from there. What do you think? Will it work? Will it see them through to the final for the first time in a while? Europe's tastes aren't quite what they were in the 90s, remember? Now, I find the story of the song to be fascinating personally. On the surface, it sounds like someone worrying that their partner is cheating on them, but I myself interpret it as being something closer to their partner having, like, a terminal illness or some other life-threatening secret, and the singer's picking up on there being something wrong, but not quite pinpointing what it is. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just being paranoid about the singer being paranoid. If my musings about songs interest you, I strongly recommend you check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tesshex, TESSHEX, and my Patreon page, patreon.com/Tesshex, patreon.com/TESSHEX, where I post in-depth analyses of songs and entire countries, for that matter, at Eurovision, amongst other things. I'm also in the middle of disclosing my personal top 43 of this year's contest, according to my opinion, if that interests you at all. youtube.com/Tesshex if you want to look me up. For now, though, I'd like to introduce a hot new feature for 2018. Every week in this show, I would like to play one full Almost Eurovision song from this year. So, you know, I just want to show you that hot talent is out there in Europe that you might not otherwise have seen, even if you do watch the contest. This week, we are looking towards Norway, whose actual entry this year is far and away my least favourite of the whole bunch, but whatever. Especially tragic when they could have had this instead, performed by Alexander Wallman, who, he did the vocals for Norway's entry last year and placed them 10th in the final. Which is pretty impressive if you think about it. This is Talk to the Hand, which won't be representing Norway this year.
Breaking news for anyone in search of a new career path. There's just 1 week left to sign up for the Swedish massage course at Farnborough College of Technology's Hair and Beauty Academy. In an 8-week course, every Tuesday from 6 until 9, you too can qualify to the industry standard for only £500. And government loans are available to help you if you're age 19 or over. See farn-ct.ac.uk for details. But act fast, the course starts on 24th of April, so apply today before you miss out.
Hi, we're Link Up Limited, and we don't do fuss. We know that branding matters, and we're proud to have helped make merchandise for FCOT FM. We offer over 80,000 different products that can be branded or designed with you in mind, from mugs and bags to fully embroidered leisure, school and work clothing. We're based in Aldershot, and we pride ourselves on fast delivery and solid quality. To find out more, go to linkuplimited.com. That's linkupltd.com. Or give us a call on 01252 343 127.
We're flying off to Lisbon. All aboard Tess's Eurovisions 2018.
I'm Tess, oh yes, and you might just be listening to FCOT FM on 87.7. In fact, you are. The time is now 12:41, so the show's almost over, but on top of that, Eurovision is just a few weeks away at this point, and I am so many flavours of not ready. That said though, all this talk of time, I make it about time to begin wrapping up this week's slice of Almost Eurovision, and what a fitting time to do so, bearing in mind we just listened to one Almost Eurovision song in full from Norway, and tragically they didn't pick it. Yeah, over on Facebook people are sad because they so totally would have voted for that, and I agree, I would have voted for it too. It's a shame because the song Norway actually picked, I'm not quite so fond of. Oh well. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I played 3 little clips of unsuccessful attempts to participate at Eurovision and ask you lovely people to tweet in to @FCOT FM using hashtag Eurotest to tell me what year they're from. I'll play those clips one last time, and that's your very last chance to give me your answer to that. So have a think about it and get your answer in quick, because we're revealing the answer very, very soon. Well, we have had some answers over on social media. We've also had a reaction to the previous song. Well, I would prefer it, but I have a feeling that Alexander Rybak, who Norway actually picked, will do very well. It's such a catchy song and he's a brilliant performer. I would dispute one of those points, but that's just me trying to pick fights. Anyway, Ozzy, since you're here, do you have any ideas about the Almost Eurovision songs? Where are they from?
Ooh, I couldn't tell you for the life of me where they're from. Europe?
Wow. I mean, mostly.
Yeah, that's very true. I couldn't tell you where they're from. I couldn't even begin to guess. There's so many countries that enter into Eurovision.
It's true. This year we have 43 entries, which is joint most alongside 2011, 2008, and technically 16 and 17 as well, but in both cases there was a last-minute dropout. So yes, 43 countries. That is a lot of places.
That is a lot of places.
So, what year do you reckon these songs are from then?
Oh, I want to say... I'd definitely say in the last 3 years. But to narrow it down...
Yeah, could you narrow it down? I defy you to narrow it down. They sound so modern, they could be from any time of year. Any time of year. Any year in time.
Yes.
Like
They're from spring.
2012.
Yes.
The best year.
I would have to guess 2016.
So close. You're just off by one. It's 2017. So shout out to Jackie over on Twitter. I believe that's the same Jackie from earlier. But yes, the Almost Eurovision, that was indeed 2017. And you correctly identified Nano from Sweden, which was the third song there. That was Hold On, which competed in Melodifestivalen, was the hot favourite to win and then placed second in that. And the other two entries, well, admittedly it was a bit of a tricky bunch for you to start on, but, you know, don't feel ashamed for those of you out there who may not have got it. So yes, we had Light It Up by Mariko Lejava from Georgia, followed by Be Cool, which is spelled BQL. They're from Slovenia. They have been trying to represent Slovenia for ages and it's just never worked out for them. And that song was called Heart of Gold, and as previously mentioned, Hold On from Sweden by an artist called Nano. They all tried and failed to represent their countries with their songs in 2017. Did you like them, Ozzy?
I wasn't so into the first one. The other two, Sweden and
Slovenia.
It
kind of reminds me of Despacito.
Yes. I quite liked both of them.
Well, it just goes to show that even the songs that don't make it to the contest are still forces to be reckoned with. I mean, I'm rather fond of Light It Up, personally, the first one, just because I was bopping along to it. You saw, I was headbanging.
That's very true.
Made myself dizzy headbanging to that. And the next song just so happens to be the #1 favourite of a close friend of mine, and I think it might just help me in my quest to destroy the harmful stereotypes about Eurovision that currently exist. And, not just by example, but also just like on a moral level, for like moral support and stuff. The singer, Waylon, real name Willem Bijkerk, which I've been told I pronounce Germanly rather than Dutchly, okay, previously represented his country in 2014 as one half of the duo The Common Linnets, and their song Calm After the Storm placed second overall in the entire contest, beaten only by the legendary Conchita from Austria and Rise Like a Phoenix. Now, I'll happily admit, I never much cared for Calm After the Storm. I recognised its merits, especially in how its staging was composed, but it just never clicked with me as a song. I found it kind of boring. But compare and contrast Waylon's offering for the Netherlands this year, which I absolutely adore. It's called Outlaw in 'em, and I've been told that that's something of a pun. Apparently, the song is written in the key of E minor, which is commonly abbreviated to capital E lowercase m. So, Outlaw in 'em, Outlaw in E minor, I don't know if that's true, but if it is, it's very clever. So, that being said, let's take a listen. You wouldn't have thought that this is from the Netherlands, but it sure enough is. So, let's listen in now, and trust me, it's very worth it. That was Outlaw in 'Em by Waylon, representing the Netherlands, not just Holland, but the entire Netherlands in Eurovision this year. He'll be competing in the second semi-final, so we in the UK can't vote for it, unfortunately, unless it qualifies, and I, for one, certainly hope it does. So, what did you think of that one, Ozzy?
That definitely didn't sound like it was coming from the Netherlands.
It does come a little bit out of left field. Like, I wasn't expecting to like it just because I knew what Waylon's sort of music is like, and that took me by surprise, and I love it. So
I do like it. I said to you during the song, I'd vote I I'm not so much into Eurovision as you are, but I'd genuinely vote for that, assuming it obviously gets to the final.
Yeah, and I'd like to think it would, because the general consensus is that semi-final 2 is the less competitive of the two, so I think that's really going to stand out as long as his performance isn't bad. But I've heard him at the Eurovision in Concert thing, and he can perform live. I mean, that should come as no surprise. He came second in 2014, so over on Twitter, we've had other reactions to the song that this song would win hands down in the US, like in a country rock kind of environment. Send them to Nashville and get gold ribbon treatment. I mean, yeah, supposedly, Waylon actually lived alongside some other American country rock artist whose name was also Waylon or something. I don't know the full backstory, but he was intimately familiar with, not like that, with an American country rock artist. That's where his main influences were from.
Fair enough.
So, anyway, are you going to be able to find time to watch the contest this year? I'd like to think that I've proven that it's worth your while to at least give it a go.
I can definitely see if I can have a go.
You absolutely should. It should be like a national holiday. It's like European summer Christmas.
Although, saying that, you have got the quite nasty stigma of the fact that in a year we won't be in the EU. So what does that do with us in the Eurovision Song Contest?
I'm glad you brought it up, because it will do absolutely nothing.
Fair enough.
Membership in the European Union has got nothing to do with participation in Eurovision. It's all to do with whether you're in the European broadcasting area, and the there's something else. There's some other factor as well, but it's got nothing to do with the European Union, because I mean, like, Norway, Switzerland, Iceland, Israel, Azerbaijan, I mean, all these non-EU countries taking part, it's fine. It's literally not even a problem. And some people are like, oh, but what about the stigma? You know, what if they refuse to vote for the UK because, oh, well, Brexit happened and now we're going to punish you? Is Europe really that petty? I know at least one of you out there is nodding like, yeah, they will ignore us over it. Like, just grow up. Just grow up. Just do it. No, they won't vote for us because the song is not the most competitive this year. Nah, but I should have more faith, because this year we're represented by a woman called Suri, who has actually come fourth in Eurovision twice before, both times for Belgium, albeit as a backing singer, backing dancer, for Loïc Notet in 2015 and Blanche last year. So she's no stranger to Eurovision success, so maybe she will bring it home for the UK this year. Have you heard our song yet?
No, I haven't.
Well, I'll be playing it in just a hot moment then. So, in the meantime, I do hope that you get the chance to watch at least one of this year's shows, even if it's just a semi-final. You know, scorecards over on Twitter, you can obtain them yourself, or, you know, I could come to your house and deliver them to you personally. Not everyone else on Facebook and Twitter, but just to Ozzy, just because he's a friend. But, yeah. But you lovely people out there in FCOT land as well, I really hope that you watch the show. It is worth your while. I hope I've proven that to you with this show. I mean, listen to all these songs. It's quality stuff. And if you miss out, you're actually depriving yourself. I'm going to mince words on that. So, on that note, though, that's more or less all the time we have for this week. But do join me again next week from 10 a.m. for my full mid-morning show, and from 12 p.m. on Friday for my next batch of Eurovisions. I'll be having another guest on, and we can shoot the breeze, as it were, and get an expert opinion on the matter as well. Ozzy might be joining me, maybe not. I'll see if I can drag him in. Would you be willing to come back again tomorrow? Next week, rather?
Tomorrow?
Yes,
I am not coming in tomorrow.
Boo. But, yeah,
quite possibly.
Yeah, well, that should be fun. We have an amateur in the politest sense of the term,
that's
an
fine.
expert, and then me, who's just out here being some sort of Eurovision supernova, except that's actually the name of Latvia's selection format, and I'm going off on a tangent. Anyway, if you can't wait for next week, then don't forget you can find me on YouTube and patreon.com/TessHex to find out more of what I think about various Eurovision things. I am an expert, I've been doing this for years, and you can catch Andrew today on the Drive Time show at the slightly early time of 3 p.m, I believe?
Yep.
So for now, though, do stay tuned, because up next we have Elise with the afternoon show, so it's goodbye for my most gracious guest.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me, at least until the next show. And so to play us out, I think it would be rather pertinent for me to hand over to Suri, as I said, who will be representing the United Kingdom at this year's contest with her song Storm. I certainly hope you enjoyed. After that, we'll have Perfect by Ed Sheeran, which is decidedly not a Eurovision entry. So see you next week, and here's our entry.